not bad. A lot of people stayed, which is good. Like I always think, like during the break, it's like, mad dash for the door. Never understood that. I want to go into a lot of the psychology principles behind user testing and how many how many people have done user testing before? Yeah, the whole room again. That's cool. User testing is fascinating. So there are a lot of good elements to this if you're doing a kind of no touch and purely running people through something like has any has anybody done the 5 second test via usability hub? Cool. Okay. How do you guys like it? Like, good. It's all right. Yeah. I mean, you don't get enough like actual feedback to really go on, but it's short. It's free, so anybody can try it. I think it's valuable to at least see what people's first kind of reflections are. So yeah, get a free account and try it yourself. These are a ton of other tools. Try My UI is really neat as well. And yeah, I just think it's cool to test these things out. Like, why else wouldn't you do that? If you're a designer and somebody that actually builds like user interfaces, then holy shit, like I want to know what people think about this stuff. I want feedback. And I do think they're really easy to set up. You kind of have to dangle the carrot a little bit and make it clear to people, but there are a lot of freemium pricing models. Now, there are a lot of pitfalls with this stuff because a lot of people are there to make money. So if I know that I get $5, $10 for doing a quick user test, which if anybody's a cash strapped student, this is really easy to do on a Sunday when you're super hungover. And we blew, when I was over at the Washington Post, a ton of money on people that were mumbling incoherently. It was super frustrating because you're spending anywhere from 30 to $50 on each of these things, depending on how many tasks you ask them for. You must ask for a specific demographic, and I always found to measure my specific demographics across 3 different kind of guesses so that I got people that were the most related to my potential customers. You need to be, again, clear with directions. It's so important. I stopped asking college kids to do it because it's like, dude, you getting a fucking blowjob doing this? Like, I just so checked out. They're obviously checking their phone at the same time, and it's like, come on, man. Like, that's $50 I don't get back. And of course you can get a refund, but it's just, like people don't care. And that's super frustrating. So income and education level were actually some of the best measures that I did. Beyond that, just realize that you're not working with geniuses. These are people that are making $10 or $5 on 20 minutes of their time. So they're in it obviously for an incentive. So they want to do more of these. So they're giving you often what you want to hear, or there's a lot of, I don't know, so I do this, and okay, it says, yeah, it's frustrating. So I think you should give it a shot and see what you learn, but there's a lot of freemium models, so yeah, I would definitely check that out. I've already kind of talked about Try My UI. I really think that that's a great one to test out. In-person user testing is a waste of fucking time. It's so bad. And I'm going to go into some examples as to why it's bad. Having an entire focus group trying to give a cohesive argument as to why something versus something is what they want to see. And often you're wasting hundreds, if not thousands of dollars doing these. So I used to do a bit of camera work back in the day, and there was a company called Metro Research. And as a cameraman, I would get a $100 hour minimum to go do these things. Has anybody done user testing as like a participant? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So it's like everybody. This is great. Like, has anybody ever found a guy named Taylor? Really charming. So it was. Come on. So so it's one of those things that I found that often groupthink is a major issue. One really strong voice kind of pulls the whole crew. There is something called the participation bias or incentive bias, where if I know that I'm getting paid to be there, I have an incentive of telling you what you want to hear, which unfortunately doesn't give me the best product at the end. It's, yeah, whatever you got to hear, like just let's get out of here so I can get my money. I did participate in a flu study once, side story. And I realized that they weren't really tracking stuff, so I signed up 3 times for it and got 3 flu shots. I got very sick. I don't recommend doing that, but you know, it was like $300. So like, how could you lose? So let me show a couple of different examples. And I especially think in a lot of societies that are a bit more homogenous, like Scandinavia, there is a tendency to fall into kind of this Ash conformity study. And I just wanted to show a couple of these clips real quick because they're super fascinating, and I think we all can kind of relate. So this is the Ash conformative study or conformity study.
The gentleman in the elevator now
Sorry, I'll lower it.
is a candid star. These folks who are entering, the man with a white shirt, the lady with a trench coat, and subsequently one other member of our staff will face the rear.
Sorry, hold on. It's my first day. Oh, hold on. Yeah. There we go. All right, technical difficulties. All right.
The gentleman in the elevator now is a candid star. These folks who are entering, the man with a white shirt, the lady with a trench coat, and subsequently one other member of our staff will face the rear. And you'll see how this man in the trench coat.
There's no door on the back, by the
Tries
way.
to maintain his individuality, but little by little, he looks at his watch, but he's really making an excuse for turning just a little bit more to the wall. Now we'll try it once again. Here's the candid subject. Here comes the candid camera staff, 3 of them at least. And this man has apparently been in groups before.
There you go. So it is fascinating because we all want to conform. We all want to provide the best answer. And if somebody is asking an answer or asking for an answer, or asking a question a certain way, that can lead an entire group to make a group kind of driven decision for something that isn't the actual truth. And there's been a number of studies that have kind of duplicated this. I want to show one more that really gets to a bit more of the design flavor of this stuff, which is this one. This is about social cues. And I'm not
But
going
an experiment is not a public opinion poll.
so loud.
It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines.
It's very obvious that one line is clearly longer than the others.
And determine which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the 5th person with a white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
Three.
But on the 3rd trial, something happens.
Two.
Evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
Yeah, and we all do that shit. And that's so aggravating. It's like, yes, I mean, that's what everybody else is saying. This is why these don't work. And it's mind-blowing how much money people will spend on focus groups. And honestly, I could watch this shit forever. One of my favorite movies, I'm just going to throw this in here because this is what I think of most user testing situations.
One bucket that holds 2 gallons, and another bucket that holds 5 gallons. How many buckets do you have?
2?
Thank you.
And there's your user tester guy, you know? So it's just frustrating. So I've stopped. Cover your answers. So I've stopped doing them because honestly, I don't feel like the feedback is super relevant. One of the biggest issues that I had with, again, gluten-free VIP is I was testing a ton of people that claimed to have celiac disease, claimed to be gluten intolerant, and when I showed them my app, when I showed them all the functionality that we built out, they're like, yeah, this is brilliant. This is great. I can find all the things I'm looking for. And I asked them, would you use this? They're like, sure, looks pretty simple. I missed one word in asking the question, and I should have asked it a different way. And the question is, would you actually use this? And I realized pretty quickly when I started inserting actually, I got, no, of course not. How ridiculous. Like, I would never buy using your stupid app. But if I didn't ask that question over a number of user interviews, I would have continued to probably try to build that product forever. So just one of those fascinating things. The last psychology study that I'll bring up, there's no video associated with this, but it is the Hawthorn effect. So the goal of the Hawthorn experiments was basically a bunch of people working in really industrial standards. This is back in the 50s, and they were trying to figure out if people that were on basically an assembly line would work faster and more efficiently if they had more lighting. That way, maybe those around them would see that they weren't working as quickly, and so maybe they would assemble their things faster. And what they found was that the concept of observation made these people work faster. If they knew there were experimenters there with, pen and paper taking notes, they're like, fuck, the boss is paying these guys to watch me. I got to do all the things. So they worked really, really fast, even though there was great lighting. And the control effect, they worked really, really fast. Unfortunately, as soon as all the note takers went home and they installed all the lighting, they realized these people stopped working very quickly because they were no longer being observed. So it's something to bear in mind that observation, who is running these experiments, it all plays an effect. And I think there's a million different ways to do user testing internally with people that know their shit, and also with customers, and incentivizing them has its own fair share of pitfalls. But I do think it's fascinating. All right, onboarding. So I've touched a bit of onboarding already, but I want to go into some of the cool tools that you can do with onboarding. I think AppQues is worth every penny. AppQues allows you to do really fancy layovers. It allows you to do some amazing tutorials, and the opportunities to basically build out, again, that crazy serial killer detective kind of board is there. And you can really get some amazing tutorials based on actions that you can tie into Mixpanel, and AppQues and Pendo both allow you to do that. Intercom does allow you to segment everything by if-then statements. So if a person is this cohort, this target group, if they participated or clicked this element of my product, then I know that I can essentially send things out based on time and a million different things. It is so basic, and people learn. If you're having to learn a new thing or you don't understand a process, what we all do is type in, how do I do this into YouTube? So if you don't have videos of you showing how to work your product or how to get onto your product and do something, you're completely missing the game. And Loom is free. I use Camtasia. I'm using it right now. It's fine. I think it's $99 for basically a fee, and it's super simple. I can't tell you how many of these videos I've watched that don't use a simple microphone. Getting microphones suck, but I mean, they do the job. And if you're going to a next level kind of thing and you're thinking about recording podcasts, then throw down some money on a Zoom mic. This is the H4n, and it's been my go-to mic for backup audio and all the other things. So I definitely encourage you to do video tutorials. And I actually started looking at competitors and starting to use some of the stuff that they use. And I found some of the in-app kind of stuff that happened over on different products. That's Intercom. That's not Intercom. I can't remember who that is. But yeah, it's fascinating. Like, if I want to skip these, I can hit the X and I don't have to go through it. Allowing people to get out of your nonsense is super important, but it's so amazing to see everybody has their own style. Everybody has something that they think works. This is the Intercom kind of pop-up thing. I don't know. I want to avoid taking tours as much as possible. I'm often the guy that doesn't read the directions with the IKEA furniture. I'm like, I got it. And then like an hour later, you're crying. But But I want the chance, the ability to skip the tour. And I can't tell you how powerful that is at times. But allow me to find it again and give me access somewhere in your menu where I can find these tutorials. It's so simple. And I think there's so many different software overlays. I list them in here. So Iridize, WhatFix, WalkMe, Userlane, all of those, bless you, are competitors to different like AppQ type of solutions, but super simple. This is a screen grab from Slack. So if you're selling any, how many people are on a mobile app or selling something like that's a mobile app based thing? All right, I didn't get everybody on this one. So cool. So one of the most interesting things is you're measured on the App Store based on downloads, time in app, so the amount of people that are using your app, and essentially, yeah, the amount, no, it's just those two. So if I want to get more people in my app, I need to give opportunities for people to refer their friends. So you incentivize people, discounts for invites. The more people that use your solution, the less likely everybody is to give up on it. This is Slack's business model. Slack doesn't make a ton of money off of the small mom and pop places that are 30 people max, but they're making 30,000, 100,000, $500,000 off of large companies that pick up one of these solutions and basically go, all right, we're now using Slack because Team by Microsoft isn't getting it done, or WeChat isn't the solution. So there is some incentives to getting people to use it collectively. I want to go into retention because I do think it's fun, and this is that delight stuff that I was talking about. So you want to reduce churn. Churn is essentially why you can't get the amount of funding that you want in an evaluation, or you can't get the customers that were your best customers to come back. But if you do some shit like this, like a thank you note, like, hey, Merry Christmas, I really appreciate it. By the way, I've never written a thank you note by hand, well, at least in Denmark, but there's a service for this, and it's called Handwritten Punk Post and Postable, where somebody hand writes it, and it's €3. So send it out to every fucking customer, like, oh my God, that's amazing. I ended up getting a job at a company, and I saw that not only the hiring manager, but their boss, when I was writing thank you notes, had put and tacked up my thank you note in their cubicle, and it stayed for the length of the time that I was there. And it's because it means something to people. It's tangible. And I want people to have that warm and fuzzy feeling about me. So if I can send them a fucking water bottle and it's €9 with shipping, we're looking at another $5, then dude, why not? Like, do that. Or, hey, I love you guys so much. I just wanted to send you cookies just for shits and giggles. You renewed your license with us. Like, that's another €12. Like, dude, it's easy. And if it's your biggest client that spends the most amount of money with you, send them a fucking bottle of champagne when they make the news for something. They'll remember that. And they'll be like, you know who's got their shit together? Those guys. And it's like, who, me? You got your finger all the way up your nose? Like, I mean, it's real. And this stuff lights people up. I can't tell you how many times I've seen opportunities missed because there's nobody doing it. Discount somebody's bill randomly and have them go, why'd you do that? It's like, yeah, because I love you. You know, people are like, oh, like, that's amazing. I'm never going to quit you guys. You know, like, it's crazy. And this stuff really works. So retention in terms of gamification is definitely a big element of apps, but it also works on a number of different scales. So this is Smush. It's WPMU. Well, sounds like a radio station call letters, but it's a really great optimization tool. And they basically tell you how much of your website is being optimized and what you're missing out on by not optimizing with them on the Pro package. And they also have this really fascinating thing. When I've gone to cancel, they go, hey, you know what? Instead of canceling, we'll give you your next month for $1 as opposed to $35. I'm like, all right, you drive a bargain, but okay, I'm canceling at the end of this month though. And then of course the next month comes, you're like, fuck, I missed my window. And then you feel weird about sending it back because you're already in it. And you're like, all right, forget it. So I think it's really fascinating the way they've gamified that. Everybody's seen these types of apps. This is like a geo app. This is how people continue to come back because they're incentivized by points or whatever the case is. Like, I want to draw a map of a dog while I'm jogging, whatever your thing is. This is the layout of Mint. I think Mint is really interesting. It's similar to what Lunar is, used to be Lunar Way, now Lunar is doing. I don't know. There's different versions of each of them. I do find it interesting when people are using push notifications to try to get people that haven't used their app in a long time back in it. It's just different ways of gamifying and getting people back in, because that's where the money's at. I love this one. I posted this one on my social media. This is somebody uninstalling a program. It's not even an app. It's not a website. And the first thing you see is, I thought we were friends. You know, it's like, it's super fucked up, bro. You know, and then you go to uninstall, and then it's removing bear fur from your hard drive, drying bear tears. Bear's girlfriend stops calling, buffing claw marks off the motherboard. You know, like, you're like, God damn, I feel like I should install right now. You know, and it's playful, it's fun, it's kitschy, but I have a feeling this has saved people more opportunities than anybody could imagine. I do find this one really cool. I did this over at Genie Belt, and the problem was I couldn't get the salespeople to get on board with it. So when people don't open newsletters, shocker, newsletters seldom get opened. It's not a thing. Nobody reads those. They don't read the fucking mile-long ones. Stop sending those out if you are. Keep them short. But when people weren't opening up my stuff and their trial period was already 90 days in the past, and I'm getting 0 opens, 0 engagement, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, you're off my list. I'm removing you from future updates and deleting your name from my database. And people called up like, hey, how dare you delete my information? It's like, you didn't even do anything. You didn't create a project. You didn't ever open any of my stuff. But that's an opportunity for somebody to go, hey, look, not a big deal. I'll talk to the guys in the back, okay? But in the meantime, while we're talking, I think I can make a deal with you that you might actually like in order to make some project management solutions really suit your business, whatever the case is. And unfortunately, people weren't ready to have that discussion. And it was super frustrating. I'm like, you've gotten them on the phone. This is the hard part. This is the target customer. But this is a hell of a hack, and it does work. I've seen this across a number of different places, but it's still, it's that pain point of like, oh, I feel bad pulling somebody out. Retention is really customer success's job, but it's up to marketing and design and a bit of UX to make sure that we're implementing these things at the right time, whether it's a discount some point down the road, or it's an opportunity to send somebody an email and say, look, I just want to find out what it is about our product that you don't like. Maybe they're quitting because the feature that you just released or are about to release, they don't know about. And that happens all the time. And it's super easy to go, no, like, we got this. I had to drag people over to the phones when I worked at a company called Actimo and say, I need you to call all the current customers because we have to make this amount of money before December. All the lights go out and this thing's over. And people are like, yeah, but they don't even know I'm calling. Like, just send a fucking email and get them on the phone. But ask those current customers who love you and love your product, ask them for referrals. How many people do you know that might love our product because we're awesome? How many people do you know that might actually love this just as much as you? And you'd be surprised how easy that is, because if you're doing a great job and your product is meh or even good, then it stands to reason you can get other people in the funnel. It's really easy, and everybody knows somebody. So this is kind of getting me into referral marketing. Referral marketing is probably one of the most underutilized ways of generating revenue, and this is the bottom of that pirate metrics thing. That's why they go big into it. But there's some really great tools out there. Fuck these guys, but Viral Loops is good. They want a year's worth of money up front. And I'm like, dude, I got like no money. And like, let me get like a month trial to try things out. No, we don't do that. And it was like $4,000 for the year. And I'm like, nobody's heard of you. Like, nobody's heard of you. I'm like, touche. So, so it happens. But if you're manually doing these things, which a lot of times when you're early stage and you're a startup and you can't afford any of these platforms, Viral Loops is like $35. Great deal. Then use Pixely. Pixely allows me to get UTM tracking on every individual customer, so I can see who has been referred by what user in order to make sure they get compensated for the referral or the work that they did. This is all kind of affiliate models, but put underneath kind of the dome of referrals. The idea is that I'm trying to get people to give me a reason to incentivize them in order to get more customers on my platform. And it really works. I mean, most people will buy from people they like. If it's their friends, then it's even easier. And I can't tell you how many opportunities people leave on the table by not setting up a referral campaign. These are two of the most successful companies in history, and one of the biggest companies that now is having some difficulty with their IPO situation. But Airbnb and Uber, they saw two-sided incentivizing as a way to scale their business. So one way is I have a promo code that is unique to me. I get a discount on future services, and this person who is my friend gets a discount on future services. Or, invite your friend, get $100, and they get $25 off, or whatever the case is. I didn't read it. You'll get $25 when they take a trip, $75 when they rent out their place. Okay, whatever. So either way, it works, and the concept is this is what built empires, right? Airbnb is a gigantic company. Uber just laid off, I think it was 400 marketers. They still have 900. Like it's unreal. And they've also gotten rid of their CMO, which I find fascinating. Now they've hired a CDO, so Chief Digital Officer. So I don't know, big companies are the worst. CRO is super powerful in this element, and the way that you give these referrals to people has to be a 3-step solution. Any more and people start getting lost. It's that idiocracy scene of the guy like, I don't know. It's so frustrating. So if you can make it into a 1, 2, 3-step program, you've got something. Now, the way that we calculate how much we should incentivize people is figuring out what your cost per lead is or your cost per action. So long as you're not giving away more than the lifetime value of one single customer, you're fine. And there's a million different ways to contemplate that, but I'm not going to go into that because it takes a little too long, and I think there's plenty to be said about referrals. This is just another look at some of the more recent stuff that's come out with Airbnb. And again, I do see an incentive in doing this. This is one of the ways that anybody right now could scale amazingly well with basically, network effects and referrals. The statistic that I was trying to pull out of the top of my head, 77% of consumers are more likely to buy a new product when learning about it from friends or family. 92% of consumers trust referrals from people they know. So this is the best way of basically getting people that don't work for you to work for you. And it's really, really good. And I've shown a bunch of tools. I really encourage you to give it a try. All right, dashboards. It's like that Simpsons episode. Did somebody say box kites? And then, it's a bunch of people flying box kites during like a halftime show. And it's like, no! So I'll try to keep it quick. I don't know about, ask the audience. How many people here have had to put together reports on a weekly basis? Yeah, it is the bane of my existence. I fucking hate it. But if you can build a dashboard, I don't know what that would be. If you could build a dashboard that essentially automates all of these reports by pulling in all of the data, then you no longer have to waste 4 hours, 8 hours, 2 days per month, essentially building the same shit. All of these have open APIs. All the tools that I've shown have APIs. So you should be able to pull in all the data. Yes, it's a pain in the ass, but ultimately it serves you and it makes your boss think that you're a genius. So the reality is, I don't know why more people aren't doing it. Gecko Board is probably the most affordable on here. RJ Metrics, been around for a long time, but they're super expensive, but really helpful. Tableau has been around forever. They're the standard when it comes to BI, business intelligence. But you need to get this set up. And the way to do this is segmenting by channel using Google Tag Manager, SourceBuster, which I didn't reference earlier, might have. Weekly and monthly reports. Stop doing this stuff manually. You don't have to do that. And here's where the responsibility falls, and this is where it's always a problem, is sales won't do it because it's sales. And they're like, no, I'm not a numbers guy. And it's like, I just need fucking feedback. So you're not going to do that. Marketing will avoid it because we're like, branding. What about branding? And then, we get to kind of like not have to worry about this stuff. Leadership doesn't understand it. There's zero chance they're going to get in and actually figure out how to set these tools up. And developers can do it, but they need your guidance. So you need a halfway qualified backend developer that understands MySQL, a dash of API experience. If they've got experience with Python, fucking great, whatever. The case is, I need somebody that can take data from here and put it over here, and that's the whole ball game. If you can set up Google Tag Manager, which most marketers have to do at least once in their lifetime, And if you move jobs, you have to do it more than once. Every one of these tools kind of like links together. Google Tag Manager syncs up with analytics. Segment funnels everything together and pulls all the different tools so that I have the unique ID from anybody coming to my website, and I pair it up as soon as they convert on my conversion form. And then I make sure to feed all of this into the database. So I'm able to get attribution, I'm able to get who is actually converting on what ads or what medium or what channel, and feed that information in so that I know this is the most successful campaign to date that we've put money in. Let's put all of our fucking money in this thing because it works, because the customer acquisition cost is so cheap on this, we're losing money by not doing it. And that's it. I mean, it's that simple. That's our job as marketers. And if we're not doing this, we're missing the whole game. And I can tell you right now, being a branding and strategist, you will lose. You will ultimately lose because we are playing a game of bullshit bingo, where it's like, yeah, like I can dress like fucking Steve Jobs too and talk with my eyes closed. But the reality is, this is the important stuff that will secure your job in the future. And if you don't do this, you're missing out on all the different things that allow you to do some of the crazy branding and strategy stuff. All right, so I'm gonna go through some quick conversion rate optimization stuff, and I'll let everybody get out of here. I know that we're getting close to time. So CRO, conversion rate optimization. These are the different elements that we all can start inputting into either our landing pages or sub pages, or even on the main pages, to be able to increase the conversion rate. The average conversion rate, according to Google, I don't know, look it up, it's 2.35%, and that obviously is different depending on every industry, depending on B2B versus B2C. So no matter what you're doing, if you have 100 people come to your website, we stand to reason that we should be able to convert 2 of them. And I'm telling you right now, I don't reach those numbers very often. It's really hard to do. So what we do is a little bit of A/B testing. I went like Bill Cosby there for a second. Like, you see, Theo? So A/B testing. Who here has not heard of A/B testing? I'm gonna put you on the spot. Nah, nobody's gonna do that. Okay, nobody raised their hand now. Yeah, so Google Optimize, best bang for your buck. You get at least one experiment out of every time that you go to Google Optimize. So you need 5,000 unique impressions in order to make a scientifically validated decision. So think of it like this. If I try a red button versus a green button, that is one experiment. And if I get more data coming in, I can continue parsing out my traffic as much as I want. My goal is to try to run as many experiments as possible based on the amount of traffic that I have. Optimizely is super expensive, over $1,000 a month, and damn, it's good. Like it's WYSIWYG, meaning like you can click and drag elements around, you can change pictures. It's amazing, and it's all about figuring out what works. So here's an example of something that I've done as well. So you have a control, which is an average looking landing page, and then a giant super long landing page. This converted 63% more than that one, because some people want a lot of information. Some people want to see everything. Another way to actually build up some opportunities is AMP pages. So this is part of building up the speed. So AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages. It's built on Google's framework. So guess who supports it? Google. So the idea is that if you're giving people a faster mobile experience, they're more likely to actually go through the page and see what it is you're offering. If it takes 30 seconds to load, they're out, and that's it. They're never coming back. So speed is super helpful. And retargeting, I'm going to have to skip. I'm going into too much. This is actually interesting. Don't put barriers in the way of people trying to convert. Like, yeah, pre-order, wee! You know, like, yeah, it's happening. This converted better. 43% increase in checkouts because you made less noise between somebody and actually on the buying page, the shopping cart, convert. The last little piece of the puzzle, converting. Like, I don't need to learn anymore. I already know I want it. That's why I clicked buy now. You know, make it simple. So this is interesting. This is a short one versus a long one, but it's that giant fucking form that we talked about. Don't make me work to give you money. Like, that's crazy. Make it simple. Like, that's all you have to do. Like 5% increase. And all of these add up. I hit a weird button there. Here we go. I do think it's really neat to do a lot of A/B testing within Facebook ad campaigns. I mean, there's so much potential value there. This is how people make, their livings. And it's fascinating just to tweak some of the different images. You can't have text this big on most Facebook ads. I don't know how they got away with that. Every platform has its own set of rules, but it's little changes that have big differences over a big enough time period. You can test different pricing. So 35.81% increase in conversions. And it's the only thing that's changed is the button, right? And that's such a small thing, but that's 35% more deals being made, maybe over the span of 1,000 deals, 2,000, 5,000. At what point would you try to actually implement this? Like, what do you need to know in order to actually go, all right, yeah, I got to do this? Because a button has too much spacing, all of a sudden it's 10% decrease. Like, people are weird, but okay. And these things never stop. So every button, every image, every landing page is a new chance to learn, a new chance to test something, and then you feel like you got it. So I really believe in heat maps and especially video recordings. In Denmark, everybody seems to be using Hotjar. I've always used Inspectlet. The only problem with these things is they slow down the load time significantly. You can see everything that somebody's doing. They are GDPR compliant, so it does track individual users. It blurs out all of the form fields, but you're able to see visually a recording of somebody clicking around on your site. This is how you discover when shit doesn't work. This is how you discover why people are getting stuck. If people are clicking on things that aren't clickable, should we make it clickable? I don't know. Why isn't it clickable? It creates all kinds of crazy conversations. But yeah, Crazy Egg is like one of the ones that's been around forever. And I got to tell you, the heat maps are cool. It's like confetti. But it also tells me what people are into and what people are using. I have mixed feelings about, it's basically Google's Chrome. It's their Chrome layover. So it's the Webster Page Analytics, Google. If you look up Chrome Analytics layover tool, you'll find this guy. The problem is if the URL is the same for this link and this link, it basically combines the numbers so you don't get an accurate depiction of how often people are actually clicking individual things, which gets really frustrating. But from like a 30,000 foot view, it's at least like, I see that nobody gives two shits about my ebooks page. Why not? Or I need to figure out what is working. So here's what's coming. Chase is partnered with a company called Persado. Persado basically is AI for marketers, meaning putting marketers out of the job. So they tested AI techniques across hundreds of millions of pages, and they're working currently with 44 Fortune 500 companies. They cost $3,000 a month, which is, I couldn't afford them. Like, even with the savings, like, I'll give you 2 months, But it's one of those things, the average click-through rate, which is usually about 5%, they claim that they get 68. I don't know about that. The average conversion boost, 76%. It's like, what are you guys selling crack? Like, this is crazy. But the reality is, this is where we're going. So if I know everything about me as a user based on either Google's tracking pixel knowing my previous actions or knowing my demographics, I can start to make a different landing page, a unique experience for each person. So like I was listening to an NPR podcast, This American Life, and this guy, he was talking about deodorant, and it was this episode about branding, where he used to always use Mitchum because it's no-name deodorant, and it's like, yeah, I guess, Mitchum's my thing. I don't know, like I don't really like wave like my deodorant flag around or something. But they rebranded, and now they're like, yeah, are you a Mitchum man? And he's like, no. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, real men wear Mitchum. He's like, fuck that guy. I am so not that guy. So what if I'm able to parse out every person that wants to be a Mitchum man and keep the same deals and the same look for those that don't? This is why a lot of brands are going unbranded. This is why this is the future. It's going to change a unique experience, a unique commercial for all of us. And it's fascinating because it's already happening and people don't realize. And there's a bunch of other A/B testing tools that are taking the place of standard A/B testing tools, because what if I can do 1,000 experiments a day versus 100 million experiments every second? And that's what's happening right now with tools like Persado and these other tools. And that puts marketers like me either on the back pedal or figuring out how do I start working for these guys because they're taking over, which is pretty fucking spooky. It's a while out though, so don't get too freaked out. So goodui.org is one of my favorites. I think in order to get an understanding of what works and what doesn't, people just post what their experiments are and leave their data so that everybody can start to see these different experiments at scale. So goodui.org for anybody that wants to pull in stuff. I used to be able to do that with Dribble. It's just there's too much shit in there now and I can't find anything. But yeah, I definitely recommend it for anybody that wants to learn stuff. How am I doing on time? I got 7 minutes. Okay. I don't know. I just want to give you guys a quick sense for this. I'm not going to go into deep detail. Everybody needs to figure out what their marketing tech stack works for them and what ingredients they want to put in, because everything's going to be different. And by the way, the first stuff that you can afford and the stuff that you're doing right now won't be the same stuff that you're using in 2, 3, 5, 10 years, obviously. But every tech stack is different and every business model is different. And you're going to find that whatever you get comfortable with, maybe that's what works. And every once in a while you plug in something different and say, nah, I like the old way. I like the way that I was using it before. There's a reason that a lot of people use HubSpot, because they give baller pricing for the first 2 months and then they jack it way through the roof so that you're like, why did I agree to do this? And now I'm ingrained in their platform and I can't leave. So it's just a different way of thinking about it, but everybody has their own tech stacks. If you Google the phrase marketing tech stacks, you get a deluge, a waterfall of everybody's different tools because people don't care. I don't mind giving this shit away because the hard part is setting it up. The hard part is doing the work. Anybody can have a theoretical understanding of this stuff, and this goes back to what growth hacking is all about. I'm not going to talk about your brand because I didn't come here to do that. I think we can call it a few minutes early. I have a lot of slides. I wanted to bring it. I hope that people got something out of this because, you know, the reality is I've been in your position before where the reason I hope most people came here was not to stare at a foul-mouthed American guy going over shit that maybe isn't super relevant for you, but it's because you wanted to learn something. And I want to make sure that I'm passing that along. And if you ever get a chance to get in front of people, you know, take the extra 8 hours on a fucking Sunday and make sure that you bring it and show people what matters. Again, connect with me on LinkedIn for the slides. I'm happy to hook them up. Send me a message after I connect because I won't remember who I connected with for what. Again, I'm looking for funding. I'm also looking for interns for these two. So if anybody needs internships for school credit, very cool. I love doing these events. So if you get an event and they're like, hey, we need some crazy person on stage, I'm happy to be that crazy person. And that's it for me.
Any final questions for Taylor? I know that Advice has been so kind to say that we can hang out a little bit after you're done, like with your speed talk.
Yeah, we'll get a warm beer.
I really strongly encourage you to, if you have not talked to a